Hey everybody, KC here. So of course, I've heard of vegetarians, I've heard of flexitarians, which is sort of like being a vegetarian light. I've heard of being a pescatarian, which I kind of like, the idea of only eating seafood, not eating any meat or poultry. I flirted with that occasionally. The problem is I live in a house full of carnivores. I've heard of lacto-ovo vegetarians. They don't eat meat, fish, or poultry, but do eat eggs and dairy products. Then there's an ovo-vegetarian. They don't eat meat or any form of dairy, but they do eat eggs. But I heard of a new one the other day. They're called reducitarians. And reducitarians are people who want to reduce meat and dairy consumption, not just for themselves, but globally. The idea is if you reduce the call for meat and dairy, basically it's better for the planet. The Reducitarian Foundation's 5th annual conference recently took place in Denver. And the agenda focused on everything from regenerative agriculture and cell-cultivated meat to advances in plant-based foods. Reading from the press release here. And this is a noble cause, I think, even if I don't necessarily subscribe. And the problem is, of course, only 600 people showed up for their annual conference and meat consumption's at an annual high. And listen, I think it's all well and good to have a global perspective on these things. But I also think that it's good to have an educational approach as opposed to lecturing people all the time about their eating habits. I can remember years ago somebody telling me that the worst or most doctrinaire Catholics are the ones who converted to Catholicism. They just buy into it to a degree that the rest of us who were raised in the religion, many of us don't quite buy everything. I think that's sometimes the case with people who have converted to vegetarianism or become vegans and stuff like that. Sometimes they can be a little bit over the top in terms of telling us how the rest of us should eat. I think it's always better in these cases just to kind of be kinder and gentler and inform people and then provide them with options as opposed to making them feel bad about their choices. And listen, I'm not a Tarian kind of guy, although I can be a little contrarian. But I want to go on the record right now that while I sort of believe in the maxim that I don't want to belong to any club that would have somebody like me for a member, I'm willing to convert right now to being a pastatarian. I'm going to only have meals where pasta is the core of the meal. I'm ready to do that right now, and I ask you, can I get an amen? That's what's on my mind this morning, and as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.